Yeah, so I don't know when you guys lost the call, so I'll say everything again, and if everyone people like the sound of my voice, and I do certainly. So hopefully that's if you've already heard me say that. Whatever. Anyways, obviously when I mean the big area for concern was FMCs. Tyranids have found kind of a home in competitive play, if anything, with FMCs. That was kind of the strength. Something like two or three crones, two fly rants, and then of course more terms were starting to allow like even Skyblight, which certainly is very spammy of that. But the advantage here was your flying monsters creatures. So the big concerns going into the seventh edition was like, okay, they're going to drop vector striking down to one attack against non flyers, and that was a huge issue. The AP2 is a nice like kind of mark against that. Like that's good. Now you have some form of an answer to Riptides, but the problem with that is that you're just doing one wound at best, and then after that, the big strength of Tyranids against an opponent like Tau would be, well, now I can drop down and assault them, supposing I survive the shooting phase of the next turn. But you can't do that anymore. So Flying Monsters creatures took a huge hit. Obviously the big strength is that you only take one grounding test per shooting phase or whatever, and that's really nice. Really nice. Like it's almost nice enough that we could still see Flyrants be the HQ of choice. We could still see Crones. Like the army might not change that much, although I do think if you were to give me the choice, I would rather have the 6th edition rules for my Flying Monsters creatures. Like you have AP3 vector strikes, but you could at least get 4 of them. That gives us access to fairly low AP attacks. No, it's not AP2, which our army does suffer from, but it's at least AP3 and it's multiple. So if I fly over a pack of really important Space Marines, I can cancel them out. Whereas my other options are like, okay, I pepper them with a non-torrent flame. I shoot them with my DACA Flyrant. They make all their saves. Nothing fucking happens. They go to ground and like they can just voluntarily go to ground. They're like, oh, I got a 2 up here because I've got this cloak thing on and it's night fight. And you're just not doing any damage. Which is like back to that world for Tyranids. We don't have access to ignores cover. We don't have low AP outside of Exocrine. And with those problems abound, like we were like, okay, well, I guess I can assault them with my shitty monstrous creatures, right? Because even then, we have low initiative. We have great health. We have great toughness. That's all nice, but no invul saves. So any kind of like donkey punching guy against our non-ICs, any kind of like force weapons, we just fucking melt. We just disappear. So we had a few gimmicks. We had a few tricks we could do to try to get around that, like the flying monsters creatures allowed, like the foot and cover thing, which is stupid, right? Obviously that makes no fluff sense at all, but at least it gave Tyranids some kind of like, if you were a good player, you could give yourself that extra layer of what if. But by taking those away, it makes it very hard for me to look at this game and say Tyranids are coming out better, and I'm excited because I've heard you guys through the medias of Justin Cook is really excited about it. I don't know. I've seen Justin Cook play Tyranids, so when he says he's excited, I wonder what he's been drinking for a while. 'Cause he got shat on at Nova. Like his Tyranids got shat on. So the addition does do some good things in potential. I mean, obviously, the first thing you have to kind of get out of the way is that this is still Warhammer. It still is made by Games Workshop, so we're obviously going to have to make changes to make it competitive. The no force order chart is ridiculous. The infinite force order chart is equally ridiculous. So that's all going to have to be regulated. We played a lot of test games yesterday, and I found the mission cards to be really random, like more random than I think anyone competitive should ever be comfortable with. They're fun for beer and pretzels. Oh yeah, and you know what? You could have that fun game, or you could have the game where you draw 4 mission cards. One's like destroy your opponent's building, who doesn't have a building, and then you're just like, wow, I guess the game just completely fucked me. Like I don't have a choice, an option. Yeah, and then your opponent can get, like have 3 units near your starting board edge. Oh, yeah, great. There's a point from just sitting on my ass. Like, there's too many cards. If it was like there was 8 cards and you could develop your play around predictable cards, then that makes a lot more sense. But because there's like 60 plus, and they're so all over the place and so completely inconsistent, it's very much so. Again, I think we'd all agree, very fun for like a pickup game in the garage, but for a tournament, expecting everyone to have the packs, or I mean, I guess they're in the books, but I don't know, just too many. So that part I don't like. I do like, in theory, the psychic phase, but I guess you kind of again have to go to what I was saying, which is like we have to just take into consideration that it might need to be touched up, but maybe not. But I mean, we looked at some of these demon armies that could get like 35 warp charges, and then there's just other armies that literally don't have that option. There's no Tau army on planet Earth that gets more than 10. You know, there's no, like, very few Space Marine armies are going to get more than 10. And that's not just them. It's actually quite a few armies, right? So that's the whole game's not necessarily decided in the psychic phase, and I do think that it's better to have some interaction as opposed to none, because not everyone's going to be Grey Knights or Demons. So you will have more, like, the ability to deny a blessing is a huge change from what it used to be, right? Where we just sat there while the Jetseer guy like did accounting work over there for an hour and a half. Like, "Oh, how we doing over there?" And he's like, "Oh, great, I got all the spells I need." And you're like, "Oh, good for you." And so there's going to be a little bit more interaction that way. But I do think like it opens a door for the next phase of abuse. Like, there will be people that are just like, LOL, my army walks in with 45 warp charges, and I can actually generate more pink horrors to get more. Like, I'm hoping for 55 or 60 this game. And the other guy's like, oh, cool. I have, 6 dice max, or no, 9 dice max at my disposal. I just won't even I won't do spells because all I can do is perils, like that's all I could actually do. And you're like, okay, well, cool. Then I'll play this part of the game, and you can sit there and watch if you like. And he's like, yeah, I guess I will. So that's like, it needs adjusting. Uh, but the other things, the other rules that they change, not so much. The weird thing that I found interesting was even right down to going first. Like, if you win, which side who deploys first. You deploy first, your opponent deploys, then you pick if you want to go first or second. What in the actual fuck is that? Picking to go first or second after you see your opponent deploy. That's right. Yeah, it's huge. But maybe it opens up this new meta where you purposely deploy really poorly if you go second to lure them into giving you first or second turn, depending on how you want it. No, I don't know. I think it's a missed opportunity too. I was sad because there's a few things I want to see happen. Like, I was actually pretty excited about the idea of ignores cover is just -2 cover. Like, obviously that means a lot of people are going to be getting like 6 ups or 5 ups, which are really low, low probability, but at least still something. Like, if I'm putting myself in cover, I want that to mean something in a war game, like, or if it doesn't mean something, I want that to be more infrequent than how common it has become. Like, the joke is with venom throats, so people are like, well, yeah, when you can use them, which sucks because against some armies they're fucking incredible. They're really powerful and they're a key unit to the Tyranid army. But against other armies, you just kind of laugh because you're like, well, that's a 45-point sinkhole. I'm really, silly me. And they're like, yeah, well, I choose to ignore that. You're like, good for you. Otherwise, there wasn't a lot of. I mean, at first glance, we've only had the edition for a day, but I don't know. There aren't huge differences. I don't feel. Oh, so it's funny because there's no way to say this without you have to. If you're a fluff bunny or a competitor, you have to laugh your fucking ass off with the way they did that chart. Because, like, yeah, you bet your ass I thought about it. Because when FMCs got nerfed as hard as they did, and not many more things got fixed, like you're still not going to see a 30 warp charge Tyranid army, so we don't have that in our pocket. Our shooting is still mid tier. We're not a top shooting tier army, so I do have to look to allies if I want to be a super competitive army. But even doing so, because we all know the lore, how funny is that? I'm thinking about a 2 or 3 Knight Titan Tyranid army, and what I'll do to make that work is I'll put a fucking Gene Stealer on top of it and be like, yeah, this guy, he took it over. Yeah, he's driving that thing. His son, he knows how to drive a Titan. They figured it out. And it's so ridiculous, and it adds the whole new really, come the apocalypse is so funny if they're within 6 inches. They have to, what is it, D6 on a 1, they just don't do anything because they're terrified of each other. Like, it's so dumb, but yeah, which makes sense in a battle, right? Yeah. The IG guys are just shelling the shit out of them, but they're like staring at each other like, I don't know. That is a tyrant, and I am a Knight Titan, so I don't really trust this situation. But yeah, absolutely. Which on the one hand's kind of fun, but again, it would be kind of like playing a Star Wars game where it's like, I don't know, this is a weird analogy, but like you've got Darth Vader who's like fighting alongside Han Solo, and you're like, well, I mean, I guess they're both kind of roguish, right? Like Darth Vader was a pilot, Han Solo was a pilot, it kind of works. When everyone who knows the story is like, no, this doesn't fucking work. What are you doing right now? And that's just my example. There's going to be people. We were laughing about this. We actually laughed ourselves to tears at the shop yesterday because I think if money wasn't, if I had $1 million, I would make the most hilarious like Grey Knights Demons army, just straight up. And I would be like, and I would explain. I'd hand my opponent this 19-page essay about how they came together, and they're like, sometimes when you work too close to the source, you take your work home, and then like dot dot dot, and like pictures of my guys fighting alongside each other. Just the dumbest fucking army ever. Yeah, and I'd LARP as like a fucking like a demon dressed in Grey Knight Terminator armor or something like that. Like, yeah, this armor works great for my chaos powers. And they're like, no. But also, hail the Emperor, and he protects and whatnot. I do believe in that. I believe in good, after all. Oh, that's in the rules, right? Oh, so they score, but they don't. They can be contested, is what it is, right? Yeah, I'm totally okay with that. Like, I feel like again, it'll be interesting to see what we do with missions. But if they remain similar to how they are now with the cards, it seems like one of the best ways to play the cards is literally just to sit on as many objectives as you possibly can. Like, it's no longer about killing troops. Troops are just like better scoring mechanisms, but they're not as tough as some of the other things, like vehicles getting tougher, or monstrous creatures sitting on objectives. So and you just draw a card that's like, you need to be on number 4, and number 4 is not necessarily the one that you planted next to your deployment zone or anywhere near you. So oftentimes the best strategy is to just play the numbers game where you just have 3 or 4 of the 6 objectives, and maybe they do nothing for you all game long. God forbid, but you just are playing to the probability that maybe it does. So I'm okay with that. Yeah, eh, I will be throwing this card away. That happens all the time. Oh my god. Yeah, the exciting thing about this is that a lot of armies are going to change, but it's just unfortunate because some of the big things weren't addressed, like putting invisibility on any kind of anything. Holy shit! Holy shit! Like that's a new level of because you can still get the 2-up reroll, but there's several spells that just give you +1 invulnerable spell or invulnerable saves, and then you have your natural ability to get that anyways. And there was a lot of holes that bothered me too. Like what the hell? Like they didn't answer what the wolf the like denies do anymore. The 4-up deny staff, shadows in the warp. What the fuck does that even do anymore? Yeah. We laughed because the guy periled inside of shadows, and then we were like, "Oh, good, it matters now." Okay, take your leadership. That's it. Yeah. Uh, See, you already lost me. He's like, "I'm excited about Tyranids." No, you're not. Yeah. Yeah, of course.